That's on.
I don't see the red light.
It's on.
Hey guys.
Rush out.
Okay. Distinct pleasure tonight to have you here. Fred Joyal, rhymes with Royal. He taught me that. A guy who, what I think is so magnificent about this fellow is that he created a whole industry all of his own. He caused a whole industry to be birthed. Something that hadn't been done before. Some people say, oh, I gotta find a niche I can make some money, and then he created his whole niche. He built a whole area where he could do business. People are copying him now like you wouldn't believe. And I mean, there's 1-800-hamburger now, I think, 1-800-dog-do, or whatever it might be. There's everything under the sun.
Not a big hit, but yeah.
Yeah. Before he has a chance to chat with you a little bit, we want to give him the Conrad Hilton Distinguished Entrepreneur Award, which we give to people that have had an impact on the field. And we hide it up here, you see.
Oh, I thought it was the bag.
Here. It is. You get to carry the bag home. So, it's a rather nice
Oh, wow.
award. And I'll read it to you if you don't mind. It says, the Conrad Hilton Distinguished Entrepreneur Award, celebrating entrepreneurial excellence, exceptional achievement, and powerful leadership. Presented to Fred Joyal, rhymes with Royal, and there's a wonderful picture of you here. Yes, indeed. Yeah. He's wearing the same shirt in this picture here as he's got on tonight. Yes, indeed. It says, how many entrepreneurs can claim they single-handedly created an entire new field of business? A creative, dynamic, and powerful entrepreneur, Fred Joyal created an innovative new business and marketing niche with his 1-800 dentist service that has spanned hundreds of spawned hundreds of copycat businesses throughout the world in many divergent fields. He has also unselfishly applied his entrepreneurial ability towards providing outstanding service to his community as a leader. And I will tell you, there's some folks up in the front row there who are on the board of directors with him in an organization that he belongs to as a charity organization. And Rochelle Katz, our dean of the MBA program here at LMU, is also on the board with him there. So
It's the Children's Dental Center. It's in Inglewood. It's a terrific place.
I will shut up, let you chat with Fred Joyal, and I'm going to put his little award right here so you can all see it.
I'm a pacer, so you're going to be very active on that camera. Thank you for having me here. It's really a pleasure to talk to students. And I want to give you time to interact and ask me things that may come to you. Let me give you some background on what my business started as and how we built it to what it is, and a lot of the things that we did wrong, and a lot of the things that we learned really the hard way, which is mostly how businesses learn anyway and how individuals learn. But when it says me, it's not me. I had a partner from the very beginning who was a good friend and a great partner, and that's one of the greatest gifts that can happen to you in a business, is someone that you trust so implicitly and works in such a complementary way to you that your success is as gratifying for the partnership itself than for the money that you make. And that's one of the people that's here is somebody who trains, David D. Stand up, David, so that they can spot you. His job is to recruit operators for 800 dentists and give them their first week of training. And the first 3 days is really training them about the philosophy of the company. But going back to how we started, I came from an advertising background. I was a copywriter in an ad agency. And I was spending time saying, I'm helping my clients make money, but when they succeed, I don't get anything. I get the same salary as when I write a really bad ad. So how can I find a way to attach myself to the growth of a company using what I know? And it just happened that somebody I knew had this phone number back in, he actually got it in 1980, I think, back when 800 numbers were just coming out. People didn't know what they were. And he just thought this could be something. And so he knew it was dentist. And he paid the phone bill on it for like 5 years, paid $40 a month to have this phone bill. But he wasn't a particularly industrious person. And at one point he approached me while I was working in the ad agency and said, do you want to turn this into a business? And I thought, well, maybe I do. And then my partner Gary, who was a stockbroker, said, I'd really like to do our own business too. I'd like to get out of taking people's money and investing it till it's gone and do something that actually makes a difference in people's lives. And so we started the business. We went and we found 18 dentists in LA and to participate in the program. And it took us 6 months to talk 18 guys into doing this at $1,000 a month because we had no idea if it would work or not. We just had radio ads. We were going to buy some radio time in the LA market. We had a room that was 200 square feet. We didn't even have chairs. We actually had buckets that we sat on for the first month or so. And we just hoped that it would make a difference. But when we started the business, my partner and I would go to the beach every weekend and say, well, even if we fail miserably, we can still do this. So we had that idea that we wanted to create an environment where we wanted to go to every day. That was actually the first priority in the business. There are 3 priorities of the business, and one of the reasons I mentioned it to David is because this is what we tell our employees when they come there, is that the business was started because we wanted a place where we could go to every day, that we liked to be at. And because I had been a bad employee, I had bad employers, as had my partner Gary. We learned from our own experiences what we didn't want to do and who we didn't want to be and who we didn't want working for us. I didn't want the same crappy employees working for me that I had once been in businesses where I resented the employer or resented the business. And the second priority was that we wanted to do actually something positive in the world. We wanted to not have a win-lose business model where, oh, if we got your money and we profited, it was because it was to your detriment, whether it was strip mining or clear cutting or stockbrokering or whatever. We wanted something that had, whatever it was, a positive impact on the world and on the environment, ideally. And the third priority was making money. And we always operated with money as third. So there were times, as my partner and I got successful, where we lost track of who was making more money in the business, and we would have to like even it up every other year because he'd say, I need to buy a house, I need $50,000, I'll take it out of the business and we'll figure it out. We never sat at the end of the year, or certainly not at the end of the month, and said, did we both make exactly the same amount of money? It wasn't important. What was important is we liked going there every day. Now what happened in 800 Dentists, the first day the phone rang 50 times and we went, oh my God, what we've been telling the dentist is actually true, that people will call. Which you'll find is the way a lot of businesses start, is you sort of make it up what would be really nice as a business model and hope that it works. And you sort of just press on. And what we did is just kept adding. We built the momentum of the business. We took every bit of money that came in and bought advertising with and just added more dentists and more dentists and more dentists. And the model we created was an interesting financial model. We charged them in advance to participate in the program, and we charged them like we were leasing them an apartment. We charged them first and last month. So with 18 doctors joining, we had $36,000. So we technically didn't have, the ratio of money that we were spending in advertising was limited, but not in our screwy business model, because we spent $25,000 in the first month in advertising, even though proportionally we should have spent less than $18,000. And we just kept adding 10 or 15 dentists every month, getting $30,000, and eventually we got to the point where we started to get credit with radio stations, because we weren't on TV yet, we were still doing radio ads. So now all of a sudden we had 60 days of credit. So we had all of these guys joining, and by the time we paid for the advertising, we really had collected $4,000 from them. So we never borrowed any money to run the business. We never sold any stock to run the business. We didn't divest of any stock until we gave employee options about 5 years ago, which is, in the business is 19 years old now. That's really unusual. We started the business with $5,000 of credit card money. My brother Ron is also here. He's the chief marketing officer. He lent us $10,000 to get started, assuming it was totally wasted. So that was great. I want to thank him for that, because we'd have found a way to pay him back, but we didn't know if it was going to work or not. The other interesting thing we did at that point was we created a structure to the business that was totally untenable. We sold territories to dentists. We said, okay, you're in this area, and you'll get all the calls from this area. And we divided it all up in LA by zip code. And what we found as we ran the model is one guy would get 50 referrals, and another guy would get 4. And they were both paying $1,000. Now, one guy was pretty happy. The other guy was very unhappy. And we reached a saturation point where we had about 40 doctors in Los Angeles, and we couldn't grow anymore. We had no more land to sell. And we realized we were just scratching the surface of what we could spend in advertising, but we couldn't get any more money to do the advertising. So we expanded into a couple of different markets. We actually, by the time we learned that this model was a total failure, we had started San Francisco and San Diego. So we had 100 members when we realized that the model wasn't working. We had to go back to every single one of the doctors and convince them to sign an agreement, a new agreement, because they had an agreement that said they had this territory. We had them all sign a non-territorial agreement, basically, that said, you're going to get an average number of referrals per month for your money. Because in the model, there's a law that says, for us, you can't charge on a per-patient basis. Because that's considered, in the medical world, it's considered fee splitting. If a doctor pays another doctor for a patient, you're supposed to refer, this is supposed to be a professional thing that you wouldn't ever charge somebody to give you a patient. So they expanded that model to referral services, and they imposed that limitation on it, which is, in some ways it's a little crazy, but in other ways it's great for us because there's a predictable amount of money coming in every month. If I had to be paid for every referral, the doctors would argue about every referral. Oh, this wasn't really a referral. This guy only had like $3 on him, and he didn't need that much work. And he wouldn't mention to me the guy that he did $25,000 of work on. He would just be mentioning the bad ones, and I would have 100 people in a phone room and 100 people in a customer service room arguing about the referral. So that model worked really well for us too. And we managed to persuade 99 out of 100 of the dentists to switch, and then of course one sued us. And we spent a couple of years, and that's the other thing about being a businessman in America. You will be sued constantly. You will dedicate a certain amount of your money, and it will be a lot. For me, it's probably $1 million a year to legal stuff. It's the nature of America. People sit down, and when your business gets to a certain size, you become a target. And there's lawyers who have word processors full of easy lawsuits that get them $5, $10, $20, $100,000. That's going to happen. If you want to play in this arena, that's the way it is. Accept it, live with it, settle these things, and move on. Use a good lawyer from the very beginning to write things up. That's my worst personal habit, is I hate doing all the T's and I's that are required in the legal stuff, and it bites me in the ass still. But it's something you really have to do in business, and it's something you really have to accept. If you don't like it, move to New Zealand. They don't sue each other that much. It's a great country. There's not that many people there, but you could go there. The air is very clean. The water's very nice. Beer is plentiful. So what happened, the interesting thing that happened in 800 Dentists, because what really happens is people call us. They're 2 or 3 different kinds of people. They're new movers, or they're procrastinators, or they're somebody with an emergency need, and they're looking for a dentist. They don't know how to find one, or they're afraid to find one because they've had a really negative experience going to the dentist. They either had a really good dentist who died or a really bad dentist who hasn't died yet. And they just don't want to see him ever again, or they move far away from this good dentist and they finally can't go back to him anymore, or the parents stop paying for it, so they have to find somebody new. So that's who calls us. But half the population has this real apprehension about going to the dentist. And so this environment that Gary and I created, where we wanted to go to work every day, became this thing that we projected over the phone. This really positive thing. Now, a lot of people set up phone rooms in businesses, and it doesn't matter what kind of thing is happening, because you're really just disseminating information through the phone room, or you're doing call-out telemarketing sales, and they create these boiler rooms. They jam as many people into as small a space as possible, and they work them 24 hours a day. And there's actually had somebody, because you know about all this outsourcing where they send telemarketing now to India and places like that. I had a guy from India come to me, and he said, "I can do these calls much cheaper for you." And he said the scales of how cheap he could do it actually included how low the ceiling would be in the call center, because that would save some money. That might work for, I don't know, AOL's customer service, which is where it all happens right now. But with 800 dentists, we had this very emotional thing where people had this real apprehension about how to find somebody that they were going to let in their mouth. They were going to walk in and do this. And it's a very vulnerable position. I mean, for men, we don't even have a gynecological similar to it. So that's why men avoid the dentist even more. So this positive thing that we projected over the phone, and this nice phone center that we created, actually made the business grow and made it thrive. Now, we didn't know the business was going to succeed for maybe 2 years. We just kept buying more advertising and growing the business, but there was never the financial model that said, "Oh, you're making 12% profit." It was always, 2 years in, we were still spending 100% of our revenue in advertising. We were just growing really fast at that point. We were adding city after city after city. And so all of a sudden it shifted. We hit that level, that tipping point in the economics of a business where you can actually make a profit, where the advertising, the level that we hit was high enough where we were getting a lot of calls, we were getting good value for the money, we were buying very efficiently, and there was leftover money. So eventually we had to catch up to that model and eliminate that deposit that the doctors paid at the beginning, because it became this giant number on the books that we owed everybody. But we needed that money to grow the business, and then eventually didn't need it anymore when that shift happened. But for 2 years we didn't know. We had $200,000 or $300,000 of media debt. We didn't know what was going to happen with the business. And that's the other thing about business, is you don't know at what point you're really succeeding. Woody Allen said it, and several other people have said it, but 90% of success is just showing up. You got to be stupid enough not to listen to if I had, $100,000 from everybody who told me that 800 dentists was a stupid idea that was never going to work, including the managing director of the ad agency I used to work at, I would have several $1 million. Many people will tell you what you're going to do is stupid. You have to go by your desire to do that business and your instinct that people do want what you have to offer in some way. And like we did, you'll have to shift the direction of that business, sometimes radically, in order to make it succeed. You won't construct the right working model when you start. Only experience will teach you what really is going to work. And that's, we knew that people wanted to find a dentist somehow. We didn't know how many people. We didn't know if this model would work in dentistry, if it was worth it to the dentist, what he was paying us and how many patients he would get. That's the formula, basically. A dentist pays me, now they pay me like $1,700 a month. They get 12 referrals, they'll turn 8 of them into patients. That's profitable for them. With me spending what I spend on advertising, running the business the way I want to run it, paying me the way I want to pay me, being in an office environment where I want to be, there's still money left. That may not work in other models. We've tried it in chiropractic and a couple of them professions, and the model doesn't work because the referral's too expensive for what the value is for the professional. So a lot of this is just hammering on, but mostly you just press on, don't give up, and realize that the worst thing that can happen is you could lose everything. And the other beautiful thing about America, to contrast all the lawyers suing you all the time, is all you can do is go to zero in America. You go to bankrupt, you don't owe anybody anything, and you start over. That's not so bad. A great experience in life is finding out that you can survive at zero and find your way back. There's a lot of relief in that, to know even if you're making good money and say, well, even if I lost it all, I was pretty happy broke. I just wanted more money and more stuff. But I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't needing the money to be happy. I wanted to see if I could make a business succeed and make a business work for myself. And that's actually what got me into business. Is I knew I could be broke and I knew I could be rich, but the idea of middle class terrified me. So I became a much higher risk personality. Many people are much happier getting a paycheck from me, and that's the majority of personality. So that's who you have working for you, are people that want you to take the risk and create a work environment, and they'll work for you and make themselves money and you money. What else can I tell you? One of the things, I do like a 90-minute marketing lecture to dentists that teach them how to run their small businesses better and convert the referrals that I give them into patients, which is very hard. People who run small businesses are really ignorant about a lot of things about that you'll learn as entrepreneurs. They never get 1 minute of this in dental school about how to run a business. And then they're all small businessmen. And they're all small businessmen with half a dozen to a dozen employees, and they have no time to manage those employees, because if they're not drilling teeth, they're not making money. So every minute they spend managing their staff or trying to wrangle their staff in any way is zero earning time for them. So it's a real challenge for them, and we try to teach them that they're in a profession that actually everybody has to go out and find patients, because people need to be talked into doing dentistry. People need to be talked into doing stuff that's good for them. That's human nature, is we do avoidance and we do denial really well, and taking care of your teeth is a great thing to avoid, and people do it for a long time. So we spend a lot of time with our marketing message trying to get people to stop that denial process long enough to at least call us, get a nice operator on the phone, and be talked into seeing one of our dentists that we think are really great. We've sent hundreds and hundreds of people to them. The other thing we do in our business is everything. We control every single component of the business. We don't outsource any aspect of it. We have a media buyer who buys directly with all the TV stations around the country. She plans everything and with her team figures out where all that money is going to go, and does that like an ad agency would do. But I worked in an ad agency and I saw how they wasted clients' money. They would buy advertising from the person who took them to lunch, or the person who put the Porsche in their garage, or whatever. It wasn't relative to how good that show or block of time would be for their product or their service. So I saw what in the production side, I saw that they would make TV commercials that just looked good. That was what I was doing as a copywriter. I thought, what would look good in my portfolio? I know this really funny ad, which may not sell anything, but the client will like it because it's funny, and it'll be fun, and we'll do a great job producing it. Go in my deal, I'll get a better job when I go to the next agency. I knew that's what agencies were doing, so we produced all our stuff and still produce all our own TV commercials ourselves. We answer all the phones. We do all the sales ourselves. We write all our own software. The software that runs, now 800 Dentists at this point handles about 20,000 referrals a month. There's 100 people working in the phone room. It runs 24 hours a day, 363 days a year. There's a website that also does 20% more referrals that obviously runs full-time and helps us. And also the whole process of that is to make sure that we find a referral, that we get the name and address of the person, so that when we give it to the dentist, we get credit for it. Because if I ran a website where they could just go find my dentist and I never knew about it, then I wouldn't get credit for it. The dentist, once again, wouldn't want to pay me because they'd not have any record that that patient came from the website. So we had to wait out the web until people were willing to trade information for the information that we gave them. So we started our website really heavily, only about 2 years ago. But at this point, this is the level of activity going on in this business, and with the potential to keep expanding. So, and I was going to make a point there, and it's long gone. So, let me have some of this stuff. The tigre. But it's not really like a tiger. It's more like where a tiger slept. But one of the things that I talk about in marketing, and I try to tell dentists this, and about human behavior, is that people like free stuff. It's really universal. I mean, we see it everywhere we go, that the crappiest thing that somebody gives you, people will wait in line for because it's free. And people will take stuff that they out of a hotel room, that they, the worst shampoo imaginable. They'll throw it all in their suitcase like it's really valuable. And I've got a shower full of conditioner from hotels from all over the country, so I know who's doing it. Well, one of the things that we've done to demonstrate it, because you say, Fred, if that's true, where's my free stuff? Is we've got free 800 dentist toothbrushes for everybody. my crew here. But you don't get them until I'm done talking, until I've exhausted you with my self-gratifying. Somebody asked me something. I'm tired of listening to myself. Yes?
Okay, how do you know that you're referring great dentists? Do you like, I don't know how, ask this question, but, like, do you just, any dentist
if they have
that's
a
willing
checking
to pay
account with like $1,700 in it, it's such a powerful indicator of their success. No, we have developed over the years a very involved application process. I actually screen dentists harder than the American Dental Association, the California Dental Association, and the California Dental Board of Examiners combined. I check their background, make sure that the ADA has dead dentists. Right? They have dentists who have been on probation. Fred.
Fred.
Am I out?
Good to meet you, Fred. Hell no.
Oh,
Keep talking.
all right.
Go.
Oh, you're just going to point to people. You're
Yes,
going to pick
yes,
out your
yes,
favorite
yes.
students and let them ask me something.
No.
All right. So we check, one, that they have a valid license. Then we ask them, we have a 5-page application. We want to know everything about their education, their special training. Have they been sued for anything? And we check on it and see how it was resolved. Again, anybody can be sued in this country. It's how it was resolved. If this guy's been sued 18 times because he's broken somebody's jaw, he's going to get a temporary membership. If he's been up for peer review, we know all of that stuff. So, and then we send them a dozen people a month. So, within 3-4 months, I have an 800 number. People are going to call me and complain. And they don't. And I have a profile, and if they complain about somebody enough, and we talk to the person who's complaining, and then talk to the dentist, and it's not resolved right, we'll just drop the guy from the service, because he or she is not individually important enough to me as my brand. My brand has to stand out there as something reliable, because at this point, you get 16% of the population moving every year. 8% of them moving out of the county they live in. So that means all of these people who lived in LA, maybe in Chicago, maybe in New York, they're going to I'm going to use them again, or they're going to use me again, to find a dentist. So my brand has to be as consistent as possible. And that's the odd thing that I've done, and that's part of what Fred talks about in terms of, I mean, he makes it sound like I invented an industry and everything, but
I don't pay him, so I gotta say something nice about it, you know?
my brand is my name, and it's self-explanatory. I mean, there are people who actually ask me, so what happens when you call 800 Dentists? You know, you get a subscription to Life magazine. What do you think? That's so. There's only a half a dozen phone numbers like that, and there's only especially 800 numbers. Now we started so long ago that in our commercials we used to have to tell people that the phone call was free. That's how nascent the 800 numbers were then, and now you can't get an 800 number for anything. That quick when that took over, and I'm completely responsible for that happening. The memorability of that number drops and drops and drops. If you got an 877 or an 866 and it's like dent 83F, you know, people aren't going to know exactly. They're not going to remember it. And actually, what they're going to do is call me. So when other competitors would come into the marketplace, and this still happens, and they've got a goofed up phone number because that's all they can get, I welcome them, because 50% of their calls are going to come to me. Because people say, I saw some ad for something and I think it was 800 minutes. Or they try whatever that other combination was and they get some other business entirely. Then they call me. So we were very lucky that this was the phone number that we had, and that it is 7 digits as well, because 8 or 9 used to not be a problem and now is, because people with cell phones, if they dial, if it was dentista, they would dial the extra A, and before it didn't matter, it would just stop at 7. Now you call Mexico, or you call London on a cell phone, because it dials every number that you put in. So we're just very fortunate that it happened to be this thing. And there's only, 800 flowers is similar model, 800 mattress, 800 contacts. It's pretty hard to do. So we got really lucky. Yes?
Wait, one second. I want to throw something in there so he can have, I don't think he likes the coffee mark. Yeah, not so good.
You know what? As it gets colder, it's much better.
Before, I want to make a comment, and I told this to him earlier. What I like about this guy, and I've said this for years to my entrepreneurial students, answer your own damn phone if you run a business. Because the customer that's calling you wants to get to you. And this young lady right here, stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
My lovely assistant,
Yes.
my personal assistant, Kim.
If he's not there, she answers, and she puts you through to his message thing. And if he's there and I call, he answers his phone. He answers the phone. Do you know what that makes a customer feel like? I'm not a customer. I'm going to spend a nickel with him. I just give him free dinner tonight. But maybe I should spend a nickel with you, huh?
Sure.
But
It's too late now.
you know what the customer feels like?
This is going to be very expensive.
This guy's a joker. Remember that.
I can afford to be. I'm my own boss.
Yes. Let me tell you something else. He also is in his own ads. So all you guys that are starstruck, that want to say, I saw so-and-so in the gas station pumping gas. You can say, well, I sat in the room with a TV star, and next time you see the commercials, you're going to tell all your friends you're out drinking with, hey, I know him, I met him, da-da-da-da-da-da. So enjoy that.
And what I say is, it's not celebrity if you buy it.
Yeah.
So, which is what I'm doing. Yes.
My question was, how big of an impact is your advertising background in starting your own business? Because I'm majoring in marketing, and I was thinking I want to work in an advertising firm before I want to start my own business. So is that a good starting point, or?
Every job I ever had informed this business. I did everything from painting houses to working in a machine shop to selling frozen meat door to door. Obviously the ad business was the most helpful, but I learned how to sell. I learned how to sell stuff that was not good. The frozen meat was really expensive, and I sold it to lower middle class people who could not afford it. And as soon as I figured out that they couldn't afford it because it was sold in some complicated formula that they, by points rather than dollars, it was really wild that somebody had invented a business basically to screw people and fill their freezer with food that they would run out of in 2 months, and they would starve for a month after buying it. That taught me how to sell and what I didn't want to do in a business, and what I didn't want to, it wasn't worth my soul to sell stuff. I'd rather be poor. Again, I would rather have a successful business that helps people, where people like to go to work every day, or be broke. Some people are happy screwing people all day long. And that maybe some of you are. And so there'll be business opportunity for you. But you gotta do what satisfies you. You gotta do what you're passionate about. And I liked advertising. I was doing writing, and I thought, I want to find a way to make money writing. And so I got very lucky at the time in LA. There was a school taught at night by creative directors from ad agencies. They taught graphic design and copywriting and most of the aspects of the business, but mostly the creative stuff. So I knew 7 of the biggest creative directors in the city by the time I went looking for a job. I had 1 interview and got the job. Because I had a portfolio with 15 spec ads that already had passed muster with the creative directors in town. So they looked at it and they saw what I could do. They saw what they thought I could do, at least. So that was very helpful. But it wasn't just what helped me in the ad agency was that I had done all those other businesses. Because I walked into the ad business, I wasn't there to be creative necessarily. I was there to help them sell their stuff, their service, their product, whatever. So even though I was a junior copywriter, they would bring me into these meetings face to face with the client because I could understand what their business was like. I had worked in some businesses. I had worked in a dozen different businesses of various types, and I understood that they wanted some nice advertising, but what they really wanted was to sell more stuff. And so that conversation was about commerce and creativity that helped commerce, not my portfolio, my cleverness. So all of that stuff informed me. So work anywhere, work for bad people, take any job for a while. Because you'll learn something from some boss, you'll learn something from some employee, you'll learn something from that environment. Most people want to leap in and say, I'm going to start my own business and it's going to be a huge success, and it might be. But mostly, the world is out there to teach you what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And that'll take some time to shape. And all of it will be useful. The ripping tickets at the movie theater will be helpful. Maybe for a couple weeks.
You said that you had 100 employees that work for you on the phone. How do you actually ensure that they're great employees after you've already hired them? What if they're a bad seed and you don't get, how do you make sure that they're...
Where are you going? I've waited so long to do something like that. Thank you for coming. I hope it was helpful.
You know what? I'm going to get him tomorrow in class too. Yes, sir.
How do I ensure that my staff stays good? That's not my job, but it's several other people's jobs. We monitor them all the time. We have probably a dozen measurements of their performance that tell us that they're spending too much time on the phone, that they're not converting enough of the calls to referrals that there's a certain negativity in terms of the results that they're getting. That we have all these metrics that say, and then we can just monitor them randomly. But the way the call center is set up, every row of let's say 15 or 16 operators has a manager at the end. So they can look to the manager and get help, but the manager's also there kind of overhearing everything everybody's saying. And as soon as their metrics dip, we start to record their calls and play them back to them and say, listen to what you're doing. Because it happens very quickly that they lose that edge of being pleasant on every call. Because that's the challenge in my business. They're going to take, how many calls will they take a day, David, would you say?
50 on a busy day.
Yeah, so they're going to screen out 60% of those of those callers before they pass them on to a dentist, because they're calling about everything. They're calling to ask if their dentist is on my service and what do I think of him. They're calling for directions to their doctor's office. They may be looking, they may have a closed insurance plan and I can't help them. They may be looking for a dentist to treat them for free. I'm going to screen all of them out because my dentist is paying me for somebody who actually has money. And every single call is different. They'll be in 3,000 calls in a day. They're all slightly different. So they have to be able to listen to a phone call, go get off the phone with the last wacky person. Now, it could have been a prank call, the previous one, and start the next phone call completely fresh, focused on it. And what I say to them is, think of yourself as like a bricklayer. Once you have your plan for your building and you have plumb lines set up so that you know the walls are going to be level, what you focus on all day as a bricklayer is the brick you're on, putting that brick in place perfectly. And if you do that, then you have a row and you have a wall and you have a building that's perfectly made. So that's what their job is and what their personality is. David's, one of his first things he does is he gives them a 2-hour psychological test to see if they're the kind of person that can be happy all day and pleasant all day, even though they're dealing with wackadoo sometimes. So, and what we did is we took our best operators who've been doing it 5, 6, 7 years and did a psychological profile on them and said, who is this person that can do this? Let's find him, and let's not find the wrong person. Let's not spend a month training the wrong person. And that's one of the biggest lessons in business that I learned as an employee, but also as an employer, is you can't take a miserable person and make them happy. Not with love, not with money, not with a more comfortable environment. The people you have working with you have to want to work. It doesn't matter how much money they get. They got to want to work. They got to like working. They got to be basically happy. And let everybody else hire the miserable people. That's really, because otherwise they'll make you miserable and they'll drain your business. So we pay our people a little bit better. We train them really well, and we give them a really positive place to go to work every day. And if you walk through my office, and many people say this when they go in there, so I'm not just making this up because I like to go there. People say, this place feels different. This place feels good when you come here. People seem to want to be here all day. It's a nice place to go, and happens to project out over the phone, but it's because that's who we hire. We'll eventually, a department will come to us and say, this person is actually secretly miserable. And they're gone. Because it's not worth it. They'll have a profound effect on an environment just by being personally unhappy in their life. It doesn't matter how, you can't double that person's income. It won't change them. So, that was the longest answer possible for that question. But sometimes they need a little reprogramming. They may go right back through David's training again. But mostly what they'll do is they'll go back to their group leader. And their group leaders are taking them through anyway and sort of reminding them. Things are always changing anyway, so we're always giving them new information. Every month they sit down with their group leader and they hear about anything new, and everybody looks at everybody's metrics. And you correct them. And they may eventually burn out. It's not something you can do forever. It's a really unusual personality that can answer the phone like that 5, 6 years. It's probably 24 to 36 months. But then they could advance in the business, and we've gotten our money's worth out of them, and they've gotten a really good experience. Because if you can be positive on the phone all day, you can do a lot of jobs. And you can be really successful. And if you did that, if you came to work for me, and David would be probably happy to hire you, if you came to work for me and did that for 6 months or a year, you'd really understand how people think or don't think by listening to them all day long. And it would really inform your ability to create a business. Because you would say, you know what these nuts need is, you know, very tight hats or something, and that would be your new business model. But that's the kind of thing that ability to talk on. I've done it. I've done outbound telemarketing, and I hate almost nothing more than cold calling. But your ability to do cold calling is probably one of the most powerful skills, because you'll eventually you'll have some business or something that you'll really want to do, and some thing that you'll really need to talk somebody into that doesn't want to do it, and you'll need to be able to pick up that phone and figure out how to do it. And do it persuasively and effectively, even if you don't like doing it. You need to pick up that phone and dial it and do it. Because that's still the core of business, is that one-on-one communication. Yes?
You mentioned earlier that you spoke to several dentists about how to improve their business from a marketing standpoint. What other things have you done to take advantage of the fact that you have 1,700 dentists that are using your service in one way or another? You, for example, thought of going into dental equipment, dental supplies, staffing for dental agencies, or other things to bring into your business to expand.
Yes. I'm just not doing it. I'm developing a bunch of internal marketing products now for my members and for people who aren't my members. Because I can't serve every dentist in America with 800 dentists. I could never get them 12 patients a month, every 150,000 dentists. But there's other things that I can do. I can build websites for them, and I can do better internal marketing for them, and even practice design. I can train them and their employees to do a much better job. If they gave me their employee for 2 weeks, I would send them back a real moneymaker in a practice. I would put them in the phone room for 2 weeks and say, learn how to be nice on the phone. Because it's the hardest thing for a dental practice to do is not look at that phone ringing as an interruption. And it's the gateway to their entire business. And you can turn people off. There was a study done at UCLA. Not a good school like this one, but it was all right. Campus is all right, but they don't have the view. Come on. Where they examined the amount of message that was communicated by the words over the phone versus the tone of voice. And they found that 83% of the message was actually communicated by tone of voice. And it happens in a matter of seconds. So if I could train these dentist receptionists to actually realize that that person calling is calling to go to the dentist, which they're not really excited about, and that they're looking for an excuse not to go, if you project something negative or even indifferent, then you'll lose them. You'll lose their desire to come into that office. But if you project, think about the tone of voice is pretty easy. The difference between, can I help you, and can I help you? Same words. 180 degrees different meaning. And that's word after word after word that we say. And over the phone, they don't have a facial expression to get to balance it out, or gestures or anything like that, or anything else in the environment. They got the phone, they got the tone of your voice. So it's very powerful, and we really want to start helping dentists to do that. So we're really talking about like a front desk university. So yeah, we're thinking about that.
Right? We're out of time. Because a lot of these, yeah, so
warming
you
up.
survived. A lot of these kids have classes at 7:15, so we got to
Okay.
That's why some are leaving. I want to say thank you for being here. What I want to say to all these kids is you've all, and I know a lot of you, and I talk to a lot of you, you've all got a germ up here, an idea, some sort of concept. It ain't easy. You heard him say it isn't easy. You heard him say, I had trouble. We went 2 years, didn't make any money, It wasn't, things went bad, things went good. Play with those germs up there. Play with those little ideas up there. If nothing else, play with it part-time and experiment with it. And I love what he said. So what if you go broke? So what? I'm dead serious. I've been there. I've been there. You know what it taught me? I don't give a damn what you do to me. I'll survive. I'll always come back. So don't worry about it and learn how much fun it is for this guy to have. I mean, is he sad? Is he miserable? Is he unhappy? Oh, none of you guys can answer. No, his brother up there said, yeah. So he's a wonderful guy, and thank you all for being here, and I hope you enjoyed it. He'll stay up here for a few minutes if any of you wanted to say hi to him, okay?